Good morning and welcome to the Emerging Technologies in Automation Conference. I am so excited to be here, and our organization, Automate Canada, is very excited to be a part of this conference. For those of you who don't know, Automate Canada is an industry association. We know that Canada has an established global reputation as a hub for innovation in manufacturing automation. Automate Canada is a national association representing companies involved in the industrial automation industry, as well as service and supplier companies, which provide specialized technologies to our industry. Automate Canada leads and advocates for Canadian automation industry by assisting and promoting our members in a number of ways. Engagement in activities supporting the business success and innovation expertise of the member companies in our association is our mission. This morning, I am thrilled to be able to introduce Christy Michalak from Next Generation Advanced Manufacturing Supercluster. Christy is the Director of Advanced Manufacturing Development Programs. Christy is an engineer with 20 years of experience in design, manufacturing, and international business development in Fortune 500 aerospace and automotive companies. In these roles, Christy has been fortunate to visit and collaborate with companies all around North America, Europe, and Asia. Today, she applies that expertise at Canada's Advanced Manufacturing Supercluster, where she has a passion for helping companies to adopt advanced manufacturing technologies. So without further ado, I bring you Christy Michalak. Welcome, Christy.
Good morning to everyone, and thanks for so much for inviting me to speak at the convention. It's going to be an amazing day. My name is Christy Michalak, and I'm here from NGen Canada, which is the not-for-profit that runs Canada's Advanced Manufacturing Supercluster. I've had the privilege to be there with NGen for more than 2.5 years now, and over that time, I've talked with hundreds of companies from across the country, both manufacturers who are looking to invest in advanced manufacturing technologies, and also technology providers who have game-changing new solutions and maybe are looking to NGen to help with both partnerships and funding. After all, a big part of what we've been up to is allocating over $200 million in project funding to highly innovative projects from across the country. I'll tell you about a couple of those later on this morning. Another thing that we do, though, is more strategic. We've been tasked with helping to develop Canada's advanced manufacturing ecosystem to help with technology awareness and adoption, with knowledge dissemination, and with workforce development. This is a huge mandate. So how do we do that? Well, I like to think of the speedboat versus battleship analogy. Canada's manufacturing ecosystem is made up of 99% SMEs, or companies with less than 500 people globally. We're not a nation of huge anchor firms. And to put this in perspective, our neighbors to the south have 10 times the population, but 112 times the number of large companies. We are a nation of small companies, of speedboats. In the past year, we've proven ourselves to be nimble, agile, and resilient to non-stop change. NGen's mandate is to give you more tools to navigate all of this and to pull that fleet together for the win. So today, I'd like to tell you a little bit about where we are in that race, especially in automation. Later on, I'll describe some of the best practices that I've seen employed by some companies who are truly embracing change and thriving, even with the turmoil that we're seeing in the world today. And finally, I'll tell you a little bit about what NGen is doing to help. If you have any questions about NGen's programming, I'd be happy to take those at the end as well. So what are we dealing with today? We're dealing with a global pandemic, which has widely been described as an unprecedented change. But manufacturers have dealt with major disruption before. And in fact, we saw manufacturers across the country turning to entirely new business models or product lines over the past 2 years, and all while navigating closures, staff shortages, remote operations, et cetera, et cetera. I think we've all been waiting for the calm after the storm, but we don't see this pace slowing down anytime soon. So many factors are changing the market for us for good. We have increasing supply chain risks. We We have ever increasing global competition. We have climate change. We have high level of political risk. We have aging workforces and skills shortages. We have the expectations of younger generations coming in to replace those workers. We have increasing social responsibilities. So how will all of this affect the rate of adoption for automation going forward? To answer this question, NGen commissioned and participated in a series of reports that look deeply into the current landscape, as well as into projections for 2022. First, let's take a look in the rearview mirror and see where we're coming from compared to other countries. So first of all, unsurprisingly, it's our automotive sector that's leading the way in robotics adoption in the country, as they are also when we look at the global metrics. This is where our largest anchor firms reside in the country. Automotive benefits from being a high volume product with low mix or variation. So it's really lent itself to traditional robotics where the same maneuver needs to be performed over and over again. The auto sector has traditionally benefited from our neighbors to the south as well, who have large firms operating in the sector. And in addition to purchasing our products and hence increasing our volumes and our case for robotics adoption, they're also a major export market for our robotics companies. Automotive volumes are also so high that robotics are almost a necessity in order to meet demand. So historically, automotive has had a head start, but it's also leading the way in investments into new technologies that will make robotics much more flexible and more easily deployable. So we'll see them gaining momentum in other sectors as well. And I'm sure we'll see some amazing examples throughout the day today. But how do we compare to other countries? One way to look at our adoption speed is through robot density. So a standardized metric looking at how many robots do we have per 10,000 employees. And this is a great way to compare where we are with other countries. Surprisingly, I was really surprised by this, when we look at just the automotive sectors, Canada's outpacing United States, Japan, and even Germany, really benchmark companies for robotics, where we have an astonishing 3 robots for every 20 human workers. Outside of automotive, though, we fall to 15th place. In this chart, we've removed automotive robots to look into adoption into other sectors. And yes, other countries are getting ahead. But do we have a way to measure the rate of adoption? So we do. And this is also a cause for concern. So over the years from 2016 to 2019, the average robot density increased by 39 in the United States, compared to only 20 for Canada. And look at China, showing 119 robots added per 10,000 employees in just 3 years. Another study ranks Canada 14th globally and as a laggard in terms of robotic adoption, 44% below expected adoption rate. So this is impacting our performance at the national level. When I started working in 2000, we were 4th in the world in investment attractiveness in the sector. But we lost our low-cost advantages when the dollar went above par, and we failed to find ways to win back our businesses after manufacturers from other countries, and even some of our own manufacturers, pulled the business from Canada. Other high labor cost countries focused on automation strategies and have become world leaders. Germany, Japan, and the United States especially. As a result, we're less competitive, and we've ended up somewhere in the high teens. So what's hampering us from bringing on the automation? Recently, NGen participated in a survey with Plant Magazine, which was released last week. Plant Magazine surveyed 208 manufacturing sector leaders and came up with some not unsurprising insights. 45% of respondents cited funding challenges as a major obstacle. 45% mention a lack of skilled talent. So this is actually a global concern as baby boomers retire with a 30% workforce turnover annually. And at the youngest generation coming in, only 5% state that they want to come into manufacturing. So this productivity gap is going to increase, with projections showing a need of more than 60,000 jobs by 2030. This is a challenge faced, like I said, by all countries. So there are numerous initiatives to try to support industry. And later on, I'll tell you a little bit about what NGen is doing to support. 39% of you state that integrating with legacy technology is also a huge challenge, and there are numerous other factors. But ultimately, it doesn't really matter where we are today. What matters is how fast we're evolving, where we're finding our information, and how we're incorporating it into our organizations. And there is some really encouraging news on this front. 60% of survey respondents stated that they plan to spend on robotics and automation within the next 3 years, up from 49% last year. One possible interpretation of this increase is the fact that last year we were all in survival mode. We were not really in investment mode. But anecdotally, we're hearing some evidence that this upward trend could actually continue. The reasons for adoption seem to be shifting. So historically, we've looked at automation and robotics as sort of a trade-off between machines and humans. And we justified the cost of the machine based on savings from our workforce reduction. But when we start to add on data, we find that we have many more benefits from automation. For example, as manufacturers expand data collection across the whole shop floor, they're able to glean insights, not only into how one machine's performing compared to itself, but where the most pressing issues occur across the plant and where to deploy resources for maximum impact. They're also able to optimize scheduling based on immediate insights into the flow of material through the facility. And if the supply chain is also tied in based on the immediate needs of customers and the availability of supply. Our survey respondents noted many other benefits as well. So 77% of respondents said that currently they're using data to improve efficiencies and productivity. 24% surveyed mentioned that tracking materials across the shop floor is a benefit. No more hunting down prototypes in the shop floor, for example. 22% of respondents are looking to have more visibility into their production processes. And 17% are looking into analytics functionality. So in other words, we're starting to see the benefits of data analysis and even AI to streamline the analysis and insights and learn much more than they could based on the capacity of one engineer chugging through Excel. Sorry. There we go. A frequent question we hear is, but where do we start to automate and where can we start to collect data? And what should I do first? So this question has to be answered by the business, and it has to be highly centered on the question of where you can add value for your customer or for other stakeholders. So start with one implementation centered on your biggest pain point or biggest opportunity and go forward from there. Some of you may already be well along that journey and be taking more data and more variables that an engineer could take a look at with Excel. We're seeing technology providers responding to this scenario with plug and play dashboards. And I can imagine that those are adding a lot of value to daily production meetings. Manufacturers who want to take it to the next level are looking at custom AI solutions. We heard from one company that businesses are starting to transition from AI being a magical seasoning that will make magic happen if we sprinkle it onto challenges, to truly understanding that AI will unlock value and tangible business results. Experts are predicting that as we continue to adopt automation and add insights from AI, productivity will continue to raise, and the people will be brought back to take that momentum even further. For example, machine operators might use AI-based insights to run experiments to improve processes even more. We're also going to see AI getting absorbed into the product itself and tying insights from its operation in the field back to the site automation. So imagine a failure in the field kicks off the immediate scheduling of its replacement, or a new and unanticipated customer use drives a quick change or a robustness improvement. We're starting to see all of these ideas coming into NGen projects. So let me tell you about a couple of those. First of all, MDA. In their Montreal satellite facility, MDA sees flexible manufacturing operations as an essential competitive advantage. They've partnered with Promark Electronics to develop flexible robotic systems for small parts electronics assembly. The robots are going to be layered with AI for production planning and for business. They've also brought on a third partner who will look into AI solutions for robot and cobot task management and optimization, into data management, analysis, 3D metrology, configurable robotic systems. What I really love about this project is the ability of two small companies in Quebec, Canada's absolute rock stars, as the makers of the Canada Arm, amongst many other things. And this will give them a global advantage and global visibility as being the first to have created these solutions. The boundaries of automation is Aspire Food Group. Aspire was formed when a group of bright, ambitious young students at McGill looked to solve the problem of food security. Today, only 10 years later, they're building the world's largest and densest protein manufacturing facility in London, something that will create 200 jobs and more than 4,000 jobs in the area, and establish an entire insect manufacturing, crickets, actually. The site will have the largest automated storage and retrieval system that we've seen anywhere in manufacturing, carrying tens of thousands of totes storage area to automated harvesting. Swift Labs is creating sensors that will enable Darwin AI to create actionable insights to foster better cricket growth and yields. This project I love as well, because on one hand, they're creating a huge commercial opportunity, but looking at it another way, they're running an experiment into how best to approach food security. Fully automating the site and layering AI has unlocked unlimited potential for both step change and continuous improvement. Aspire has embraced change as a constant. We prepare for all of this change. So let's say that we do this. Let's say we go for it, we jump in, we invest in automation this year, and maybe we even take it to that next level. What can we do to maximize our chances of success? So there are like thousands of books on change management, so I'm not going to go into that realm, but best practices that we saw this year from some of our member companies. The first one is to take a really hard look at your agility and your capacity. Agility is great because it's something that we can measure and it's something that we can improve upon. We can look at metrics we're already taking in areas like program management, excellence, our Kaizens, etc., and dig deeply into our results. We've had more than a year now to gather lessons learned from forced changes as well. So which departments flew through those changes without a hitch? Which ones struggled? Did any areas demonstrate a really strong innovation mindset, taking those challenges and turning them into opportunities? Is there a learning that can be shared with other areas of the business? We can think about soft skills here as well, like having a people-centered culture and our level of focus on our customers. Recently, NGen facilitated such a self-assessment session over several weeks with Mitsubishi Heavy Industries and a number of their suppliers. And they all came out with individual company-specific roadmaps to build on their agility. Surprisingly, that exercise also helped them to strategically align their businesses, both as individuals, but also as sparked a ton of sharing of best practices and challenges. This is something that you can do in your business today. Another really great idea comes to us from Aspire Food Group, the protein manufacturer I mentioned earlier. Recently, they hired a full-time leader dedicated to change management, actually one of our former colleagues at NGen. Dr. Jen Maclean is their new VP of Innovation. She's responsible to understand every initiative that's being taken on and its potential cross-functional implications to make sure that all changes flow easily. But she also has a responsibility to keep her eye on the horizon. So look at what's happening out there and make sure that everything that needs to be taken into account in business decisions is on the table. I spoke with Jen to see what insights she'd share with you, with SMEs looking to implement a role like this. And she said there are two things that are really critical to your top change leader. First of all, recognize that there's no right or wrong answer when you're deciding which changes to enact. There are a lot of unknowns, and many decisions have to be taken with incomplete information. So it's almost impossible to know what is right. What ends up being a wrong decision is really just not making a decision at all or waiting too long. So the business needs to build a culture of acceptance for trial and error and a foundation of trust that allows for quick decision making and for mistakes to be seen as learning opportunities rather than errors. It's critical also to protect time in the week for scanning the horizon, going outside and meeting with new organizations, and all of those things that maybe don't show immediate productivity, but foster innovation and encourages the whole organization to reach further and higher. It's too easy to get drawn into firefighting and take the eyes off the horizon if that time's not protected. If you're not in a position yourselves to save that space or dedicate a person to keep their focus on the horizon, another really great idea is to join your industry cluster. So NGen is an option. Our membership is free, and I'll tell you a moment about some of the support the manufacturing ecosystem and to help you stay on top of what's coming. But it's also so important to look at your more focused portion of the sector. So for example, Jeanine told us about Automate Canada, a new cluster that will most certainly keep its eyes on the international horizon in automation. So how can NGen help? So the number one issue that was cited in Plant Magazine's survey as a roadblock to technology adoption was funding. So one part of NGen's mandate is to curate the award of $200 million in project funding to collaborative, innovative, advanced manufacturing projects in Canada that will help to impact not only the companies involved, but also the entire ecosystem. To date, we've funded 129 projects with an NGen investment of $203 million and a total project value of almost $500 million. NGen's created 865 new jobs with a 10-year projection of 18,000 new Canadian manufacturing jobs, which exceeds our goals from ISED. In addition, we've created over 177 new IP assets. Our federal funding is almost fully allocated, actually. So our last intake is on November 17th. Please take a look at our website to see if a project you have in mind could apply. By the way, we're working really closely with other organizations to find sources of funding for other projects that can help the ecosystem. So we hope that this work can continue. Tied with funding challenges was a lack of skilled talent, cited by almost half of Plant Magazine's survey respondents. So again, studies show that between a 30% attrition rate, mostly due to baby boomers retiring, and only 5% of the youngest generation currently interested in joining manufacturing, that by 2030 we'll be short about 60,000 jobs. We literally hear about companies selling enough product to justify entirely new assembly lines, but having no people to fill it. And this is a global issue. So NGen is looking at this problem throughout the individual worker's life cycle, right through from a nugget of interest planted in the mind of a grade 6 student through high school, university, and beyond to upskilling and retraining. Recently, we announced a joint initiative with the Martin family, a foundation started by the Honorable Paul Martin and his family, where we're creating materials for grade 6 and grade 11-12 students on reserves to help to pique their interest in the manufacturing industry. This is crucial not just for economic reconciliation, but also because the Indigenous, First Nations, and Métis communities have the fastest growing youth population in Canada. And frankly, we just need them to come and join this sector. For our Indigenous youth, as well as for youth across the entire country, we created our Careers of the Future campaign. Part of that campaign is a website, careersofthefuture.ca, which outlines the various roles and opportunities in manufacturing and has been reviewed so far, astonishingly, by 232,000 engaged visits to date. We also ran ads on television and pushed through youth-friendly channels like YouTube and TikTok. And over the period from June to today, we conducted independent before and after surveys, and directly attributable to the campaign, 78,000 teens now see manufacturing as a possible career choice. We launched a bursary as part of this campaign and heard from students as to why they're interested in advanced manufacturing, and they had incredible stories. Responses ranged from ways to bring clean drinking water to more people to a boy who just wants to create a better wheelchair for his sister. For workers already in the field, we've launched AMP Up. We subsidize training programs for machine operators to reskill into digital technologies, for leaders to sharpen their leadership saws, and for everyone in between to learn the latest in thinking around advanced manufacturing. But going back to some of the challenges identified in our survey around technology adoption, other challenges cited are resistance to change, difficulty keeping pace with change, lack of leadership vision, and fear of failure. NGen has spent more than a year now working closely with a professor emeritus of industrial engineering from Arizona State University to create a program that addresses all of these concerns for our members. And speaking as an engineer from 20 years, it was really, really neat to meet Dan Shunk, because so many of the tools and things that I learned about best practices and operations had actually come from him and from his thinking over the last 4 decades. We've created something called a Transformation Leadership Program, which will help you to self-analyze your business, as we did with Mitsubishi Heavy Industries and with its suppliers. And it'll help you to understand what steps you can take to increase your organization's ability and resilience to change. Companies have mentioned a few benefits to this approach. So first of all, it helps you to really, truly diagnose your business, especially if the assessments are conducted widely across the business, so we can compare the responses from the leadership team to everyone else, as an example. It also helps to align everyone to the strategic objectives of the business. And we're piloting this right now with a larger group in the fall, and we're hoping to bring this to you, to anyone who's interested, in January. So we invite you, if you're listening and interested, to come join us and get involved. So to conclude, I shared with you a couple of stories today about our members who are pushing the boundaries of technology and who have just incredibly innovative ideas as to how to deal with this new, constantly changing environment. These are just 2 examples of an ecosystem that's pushing the boundary every day. So I think I might have the best job in the world just hearing your inspiring stories. I also told you a bit about how NGen's working every day to move the needle for Canadian manufacturers and technology providers. And I also shared the metrics as to our starting point, how we may not be at the top of the automation adoption race right now, but how we see the playing field leveling, and the leaders for the race to industry, the leadership of the race for Industry 5.0 is up for grabs. So I invite you to come collaborate, get engaged. Let's pull together all of our speedboats for the win. Thank you.
Well, thanks, Christy, for sharing all of that information. Gosh, you know, for those of us that work with NGen every day, we know how many things are on the go and how exciting things are inside the organization. I just wanted to open it up for questions to the audience and give them a chance to put their questions in so that I can ask you those questions. But in the meantime, I have a few questions of my own, if that's okay with you. We talk a little bit about the project funding for cluster development, and it's coming again. The next intake period you said is in November. Can companies put in more than one application at a time?
Yeah, we don't currently have a limit on the number of applications. except for clusters. So we'll fund clusters twice with our cluster development funding. And that is on a $150,000 project. We will reimburse $75,000, and that can come from any contribution, including labor. But once a cluster gets funded, they can come back for another project. So there's no limit in terms of advanced manufacturing innovation. We do have, like I said, one more intake on the 17th, and we will be intaking projects for, I believe it's up to $500,000 this round.
Excellent. And what is the completion time for these projects? Is there a duration that the activity needs to happen within?
It is, yes. So NGen is currently funded until March. Sorry, our funding is available until March of 2023. So we really had a big push to allocate all of those funds in the last 18 months to 2 years, so that companies have time to go through those projects and complete them by March. We ourselves will be here, and projects can put in for reimbursement up until June of 2023, but projects have to be over in March.
March of 2022.
March of 2023.
Oh,
yeah,
2023. Sorry. 2023. Holy cow, that's amazing. So there's lots of time, because we know sometimes these larger projects do take a little bit of time to implement and be able to gather, any data on impact. So thanks for that. We have a couple of questions coming in now from the audience. So I know you had talked a little bit about the leadership, the transformation leadership program. You said it would be available in January. How will companies be able to, or members of NGen or members of industry associations be able to access that program?
So right now, as I mentioned, we're piloting this program. It's really exciting. And what I mentioned is that I just love the fact that we get suppliers in with customers and whole supply chains together, because so much of the benefit of this program is the conversations that happen in that room. So we will be launching it in the new year. We're looking at, it's a $6,000 value course, and we offer multiple people from the company to come. In fact, the more that come, the merrier, because then you can go back and have conversations internally in your own business as well, and really look into that self-assessment and maximize the benefit of what you learn from your people. So I would invite anyone who's interested in finding out about that. Join NGen. It's free. It takes 1 minute. ngen.ca/join. And we'll keep you up to date with releases and when you can start to get involved.
Excellent. There are a couple of questions about the demographics that you shared. Do you mind, talking a little bit about them?
Yeah. So I'm seeing a question in the chat. Why is there a reason that we have no members in the Northern territories? And actually, I did hear that we do have one now, and we all celebrated that we finally, we've gotten there. Prior to the pandemic, we were traveling around the country and really having face-to-face conversations with everyone. And clearly, since the pandemic, we haven't been in the areas to really meet people face-to-face. So I think that's made a big difference, not only in terms of just meeting and letting people know what we're up to, but also awareness of our programming. So it will come, and once we can get on a plane, I'm sure that we'll start to add northern areas to our visits.
I think it probably wouldn't be a stretch to also say, the population concentration in those northern territories is probably, by comparison, not as concentrated as it is in the rest of Canada. And so the difficulty might also be just the fact that there isn't as much happening there. That's not to suggest that there isn't anything happening. Certainly we know that's the case. But yes, I would say, just from my own experience, being able to make sure that people are aware of what's going on has always been a significant challenge. We're back to the leadership transformation program again, though. So you mentioned the fees. It might be a bit premature to talk about them, but right now, if people were to take the self-assessment, is the self-assessment going to be free? And then the training afterwards is the $6,000 value that you're looking to offset costs with funding for?
So how we offset those costs, or whether they're direct revenue costs, we're really still working that out. We obviously we're not doing this to make profit. We're not for profit, but we're doing this to look. We want to look at how far we can scale this and bring it to as many people as possible, because there are programs out there that help you to diagnose your Industry 4.0 applications and say, this is what I'd like to do. And this is the type of technology that I should use, and these are my pain points in the business. But that foundational sort of is my culture in place, and do I have the people, and do I have the ideas behind this, and all of the business processes? I think that's a little bit different. So we really want to see how far we can take this across the country, really, and offer it to as many people as possible.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, I'm not seeing any more questions come in from the audience. So listen, Christy, I just want to personally thank you for your time today. And on behalf of the organizing committee of this conference, thank you for being able to be with us and share all of the information that you shared. And with that, we'll wrap up this section. Let's go back to the main stage.
Thanks, Jeanine.
Thank you very much, Christy and Jeanine. That was a great presentation and gave everyone a lot to think about in terms of connecting with NGen. So next on the agenda is moving into our first set of breakout sessions. We have a little bit of time, so everybody can take a little bit of a break. But just to let you know that each session will focus on a different area within automation. We have artificial intelligence, augmented and virtual reality, cybersecurity, and robotics. And each session will include a moderated breakout session with presenters. So keep that in mind. Have some questions ready. You can put them in the Q&A tab. Please do that rather than the chat. If you can put that in the Q&A tab, and then the moderators will discuss some of the questions at the end with the speakers. You can connect individually with speakers within the breakout sessions by scheduling a meeting. You just click on the People tab next to the chat, and you can click on the person's name that you wish to connect with. This feature will only be active during this event, though. You can access the breakout sessions by clicking the Sessions tab on the left side of your screen, or by clicking the link. I believe there's a link in the chat as well. And from there, you'll be able to see which companies are presenting in each session and what their topics are, so you can make a decision on which session to join. We will welcome everyone back here on the main stage at 10:35 for introduction to our second speaker, Joris Meine from Siemens Canada. And please don't forget to visit the expo booths of our gold and silver sponsors. So with that, I'll just let everybody go to a quick break and then back into the breakout sessions shortly. Thank you.